Welcome. This is the analysis of the first Rapid game that I played 2 weeks back, and now I've had time to prepare a short, brief analysis on it. I went first through the game just with board and pieces, try to learn from it, go it through myself, trying to come up with ideas where to improve, and only after that I put on the engine. I saw the engine's recommendations and whether the engine validated my ideas of improvement. So my idea being I cannot learn too much on just checking what the engine suggests, but definitely I can see if I can understand the engine's moves later on, or it validates my own improvement suggestions or refute those. So my opponent started the game with move g4, which is a crop attack. I don't know this attack too well. I think I have a later look on it. I might even make a video on it. I've played a lot of, in particular, blitz games, etc. 10,000, 20,000 chess games, and of course I've come across this move. And I never particularly marked that this would be something I would have struggled with, so I'm quite comfortable. It's a rare move, not seen often, but I haven't had any. I don't remember having any issues dealing with it. But I think it would be interesting to know a little bit more what's the rationale behind this move. So I responded with e3. My main two defenses being that I play Dutch defense, which starts with f5, not working so well now because he has already played g4, so he can just take f5, leaving me e6, first move with a French defense. So my idea being here a little bit more like taking it slow, or in another way, saying a little bit passively, in a negative way of saying, and seeing what the opponent does, and then deciding on my strategy to how to go forwards. But having a think on it, and I would definitely, if facing crop attack again, I would play directly d5, trying to grab some space in the center. And since white is allowing it, playing d5, e5, placing my pawns in the center if I have a possibility, take control of the squares in the center, and then defending my pawns there and building up from that. So a little bit careful approach. Next time I try to remember d5 is alright, and go from there. And I think, for example, a line d5, if he plays bishop, trying to put the pressure on d5, I can just play c6, defend it. Or alternatively here, then e4, e6, which is alright, but I think c6 might be even better, because then I can still have a e-pawn available to play e5, and not to mention that I'm also at the same time, when I play d5, I'm also attacking the g4 pawn, which I overlooked, and we will see later that was available there to be picked up later, but I didn't notice it. So, but e3 is definitely, e6 is definitely alright. He plays, he or she, my opponent plays knight to f3. I guess this move makes sense in that sense that with the first move he has already declared that, okay, you take the center if you want. I'm gonna expand here in the side of the board. I'm gonna try to play there. So now he's attacking the center from the side of the board with the knight. I would have expected instead a bishop move here first, trying to put pressure on this diagonal, although I don't know if that would have achieved really that much, but I think his move is alright. It still gives me completely free hands to to take control of the center, which I do. Now I play d5, so I'm expanding in the center. He's giving me the center, so I decided to take it, take some space there. If he lets me to play completely freely there, I can just ram through with my pawns in the center when the time is right. He plays knight to c3, which I don't like because it, more I think of it, it immediately allows the d4, which is leads to very uncomfortable looking positions for white. So in these variations, I'm really getting good control of the center, and I don't know if he has much to claim to achieve, except for making knight jumps. So not really good. And this d4 push is perhaps something I overlooked in my own moves. Kind of happy that I did, because there's also risks that if you try to expand too quick, too aggressively, you might overreach, and that might backfire. But in this case, I think it would have been the correct way to go about things. But what the approach I chose in this situation, in this case, it worked fine as well, and I had all the time advantage, or very comfortable game. So I don't think it was necessary, but definitely I should remember it going forward. Next I played c5, which is again good. It takes more control here of one more central square. It supports the d5 push if I decide to go with that. So totally, it's a move that makes completely sense. Of course, the d5 would have been better, and d4 would have been better. Now he plays knight to e5, and this I do not understand. This is a way to, if you do this kind of a move, I feel you have to have some tactic working for you. It needs to be tactically sound. Now he just moved the knight to a square where he attacks squares that are completely defended. He doesn't have the knight defended. I can kick it out at will. So I don't see what he achieves with this move. So it's clearly a blunder. And here I could still have played the d4 push, making it very uncomfortable looking for him. The whole position, just knights jumping around a lot, and I'm starting to develop. I've gained space, but this is not how I decided to. Go about this. Instead, I played f6, kicking the knight away. Not perhaps the ideal way to go forwards. Okay, it kicks the knight away. He didn't achieve anything. He or she didn't achieve anything with the previous two moves. But neither did I with this move a lot. Well, it supports this f6 pawn. The good thing is it supports e5 move. Yeah, I decided to go with that. That's the good thing. The bad thing about with this move is that it takes away a very natural square for development for my knight, leaving only the e7 square, which then blocks the bishop in. So not ideal. Of course, in this case, knight to f6, it's not really that good of options due to g5 move. So that gives a little bit more reason that perhaps this is okay, this pawn move. It's not f6 square. I feel it's not that important for knight in this particular position. But as said, it would have been better to push here the pawn again. But it's completely fine for me, this position. As you can say, when I run it with Stockfish, it gives me almost 2 pawn advantage already. Next I played knight to c6. I think this move is completely fine. Supports the center more. Perhaps a little bit slow move. I think I could have still played the pawn push. But I have here a worry that I'm so much behind in development. And I'm just keep on pushing my pawns. So will I overextend and will I have a trouble later, since all of my pieces are still in the back rank. So I decided to instead start the development. I already achieved a good control of the center. So it makes sense, and I'm sure it's not wrong, but definitely now, looking in retrospect, I would rather play like e5, d4 or e5. e5 takes control of all these central squares in white side of the board. Now I have so good squares to develop my pieces. I can develop the knight next. Now I got a really good square for my bishop here to develop to. When the bishop is developed, the black bishop can develop. The dark square bishop can develop. And then the knight can come to e7. So that would have been better for sure. My opponent plays bishop to g2. I don't understand this. I think it's okay. It's very well aligned with his idea on not playing in the center, but he's really giving me a chance to soon steamroll in the center with my pawns. So I think this would have been his last chance to try to channel the center. To play d4, why not e4? I cannot see. Of course, he's already doing worse, but I think compared to this one, those both pawn moves in the center would have been good. He has the one advantage of having those knights there already. He has some support to the center. Now I think Phil would have been his moment to challenge the center, try to do something about me taking all the space there and coming through soon. I played bishop to d7, and this is a bad move, I feel. It develops a piece. That's the good part of it. And I think it was in part the response that if I later play d4, then I have something protecting the knight. I don't have to take with the pawn and break the pawn structure there if he decides to take later in c6, but very hypothetical, and I don't know even if the doubling the pawn here in the center is that too bad for me. And the downsides of the move is it blocks out my queen. It cannot defend d5 if I go e5. As said before, rather e5, get the bishop here. We will see it comes there anyway later. So directly to play the bishop to e6, the white square bishop, would have made much more sense. So not particularly good move. Now he decides to challenge the center by playing e4, and now I think I'm pretty much forced to. Next move is pretty much forced. when challenging the center, perhaps d4 would have been better. Because if we look at the d4, I can push, then I get space advantage here, but the center kind of a little bit freezes there. If I take, he can just take with the knight. Very hard to say. I should be better here, but nothing super concrete. As compared to e4, now I have a clear target, and not clear target, clear goal. I can just take the space here, put my pawns onto dark squares, get my bishop onto light squares, here, and try to, this structure is here, is very firm, to complete my development, try to attack here on the queen side, I feel, yeah. So I think d4 would have been better for him. And another additional thing, what this achieves, it takes a important square from his knight, his or her knight. Which is before some of the variations I already showed, he can jump, he or she can move the knight to e4, but now he or she cannot do that, so now the knight has to go to e2, which is a much more passive square when I play d4, which I do, and then my opponent makes a big mistake. Of course, when I ending up me winning concrete material, white plays the move knight to a4, and that just traps the knight. All the knight's squares are occupied. b5 and pick it up. That's it. And I do that. I was thinking here, I think I could first, because I'm not in a hurry to take the knight, it's still there. It takes him one move, him or her one move to make a escape route for the knight. So I very well could do other moves in between if I would want to, for example, e5, providing a better square for the bishop, getting this structure intact there to stop any potential e5 pushes. But I go straight at it. Of course, there's one benefit of taking the knight directly. If I would play something else, take time, he could get one pawn for it. Now when he can still get one pawn for it, of course, just by taking it here, instead of letting me to take in a4. So yeah, end result would have been same. So I wonder if this would have been better. Well, I think b5 is completely fine, that being the main point, and then he or she plays d3, which doesn't achieve much. It opens the bishop, but the bishop comes to a very bad diagonal anyway, because I can play e5 and doesn't really have that many squares to go to. I don't know if it would be better for white to play the bishop here, since anyway it looks likely my attack is gonna come in queenside. But then again it hits, as said, my pawn chain will be here, so the bishop hits directly to my pawn chain, so not sure if that's good either. When going through the analysis, I had the idea of playing here something like e5. There's obviously some tactics here. They don't work. Black has good defense, but the idea being try to create some counterplay. A little bit desperado, but trying to do something, since obviously white is already so much worse. So move like d3. That helps me. I can take the knight, and then white brings the queen on e5, possibly preparing for e5 push, but it comes too late. I have time to play e5. Now it's a very solid pawn chain. Now I have the e6 square for my bishop. I have an open file where I can pile up rooks and queen. So it starts to look very good for me. So I guess now he or she, the white, should castle queenside. No, excuse me, kingside. Try to deal with my attack in queenside, and find ways to try to create some problems. Instead, white continues with making very basic developing moves. And here is after the e5 move during the game, and also now I almost missed. I can just pick up this pawn here. So of course first he or she should protect the g4 pawn. Now I have time to develop my pieces. I could all the time this pawn is hanging. I have to say I didn't notice it. And it would have been good to pick it up. And now I think this is a huge mistake, and you can see the evaluation also loses extra 2 pawns here. The white directly castles into queenside, where it's very easy for me to attack. I have so many pieces here, 2 moves away, coming there, and even later the dark squared bishop can. So that's what I start to do, starting to attack. And this king move, I wasn't at all convinced by this. I thought it must be bad. So what does that achieve? But it actually is good. It's better for white to run the king to a1. I think probably the idea is because it's obvious my attack is gonna come here. So the white needs to make some space for the rooks to come to defend here. And the king appears to be more safe in a1. Because my idea would have been, instead of this move, to do something like, perhaps not this one, but possibly, for example, play c4. But it doesn't really work. And reason being, because I can still continue to attack here. what can white do? Not much. Cannot really. Very cramped. Well, it's not so easy. I don't think it's good for taking en passant, because then this bishop becomes a good piece. Let's see what the computer says here. So if we go here, then I just take the pawn. Yeah, pile up on that. But it's not so clear cut. I think this would have been, in the end, this would have been fine. C4. Computer gives -10 for this king move, but C4 gets around the same. But I think from practical perspective, I would rather move C4. Another move that I considered was B3, but there's some issues with that. I think the problem being takes, let's say something like here takes, then I can use the A file to come in with the queen, come in with rook. Knight can come into the attack, so that doesn't look too nice. I mean C4, I think C4 probably would have been okay. Nothing immediate. But B1 is best it seems, and the idea being of course not leaving the king to B1 but moving it to A1. So I'm threatening a checkmate with one. Bishop to C1 is completely fine. Defending. Bishop comes to attack. Really good diagonal for the bishop. And this is a waste of time for white. He or she should be do something more active than this move does absolutely nothing. It just waits for me to go ahead with the attack, and that's what I do. So I'm putting pressure on this pawn here, threatening to take it. And for instance here still C4, I think. Well, now it's not so easy because I already have so much material pointing there. It looks a little bit dangerous. Now I can take en passant, I think. And for instance playing A3 doesn't really work too well. Then the pawn cannot be taken, but I can threaten to take the bishop that is defending and stopping mate in 1. That can of course be stopped with let's say a queen move, but that's also trouble since I can just unleash more material attacking here. Let's say oh well, this is for sure a bad move. Tries to, yeah, it all looks so bad. The king is going to come completely open to bishops pointing there, queen and rook pointing there. It's there's of course a lot of variation, but it looks also so deadly. Or I can just take here also. White needs to keep defending this square, and then yeah, even something like this looks pretty bad. It's taking, castling, doubling the rooks. Yeah. So I think from this point onwards I have so good advantage, so many pieces coming into the attack. Probably it's just a matter of time how quick either white will lose queen or a lot of other material, or black will checkmate. So from here onwards it was a pretty clear cut game, and of course white in this case blundered really badly, allowing mating one. So altogether I think it was a quite good game that I managed to play. Some spots I could have played better a little bit. Here you can see the analysis. I was all the time better. I didn't make any serious blunders, no mistakes, some inaccuracies. So it went well. So could have played in some spots more actively. Perhaps a little bit too careful, too passive in some points, but in this instance it did the trick. It did very well. So this was the first Rabbit game analysis. I try to play another game this week, and then again post an analysis within 2 weeks of playing the game. So let's see how the next game will go then. Thank you. Bye.